All right, so we are here to talk about ideas for a vegan utopia. And so, yeah, go ahead and tell me your thoughts on what you view the vegan utopia as.
So I view a vegan utopia as a place where an ecological, an environment maxes its gets to the maximum of its carrying capacity due to each being finding its ecological niche to create the maximum of coexistence, which leads to beauty, where you see what's happening all around you in your own circumstances in a way that's not conflicting. So, what it creates that is anti-violence,
Mhm.
and instead of conflict, you lead to optimization. Finding instead of destroying everything, it's putting everything in its place where it belongs to be able to be the most productive. So it's
Okay.
pretty much productivity maximization
Okay.
within an
W-
ecological niche.
Gotcha. Would you say that humans should make that happen for each individual animals? Like, as in, if we notice that we can make one set of animals be more in harmony with another, we do that ourselves? Or do we figure out the best way to let them all do their thing where we don't intervene? And then we figure out how to make ourselves the most efficient without causing suffering to them?
um, it's kind of hard to understand what you were saying to
Um,
answer it, but
well, I
I
guess what
think
I
I'll try
mean.
to break it apart. So usually, this is involving uh, when things come into conflict, how to handle it. So
Hmm.
uh, usually, normally it's been where there's an animal that is really dangerous. Instead of defending oneself and keeping it away from everyone, they would just kill it so that it's no longer a problem. But that doesn't
Mhm.
make the problem go away. That there is more that can always keep coming in, and that
Gotcha.
doesn't make the animal any better either. So you lose that, you know.
Yeah.
So when
Well,
you start losing everything, that is a problem. So the maximization of productivity, creating the optimum, um, potential, reaching towards a carrying capacity allows for um, maximum uh, product. Oh, I forgot the
yeah.
what I was gonna say.
Oh, you're
I
fine.
got lost.
You're fine. I'll kind of explain what I mean
Oh,
a
yeah,
little
instead
more.
of loss, it's a maximum abundance. That's what I was saying.
Oh,
Like
okay.
the utopia, vegan utopia is abundance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
beauty
here
abundance.
I'll explain a little further of what I meant. So, like, so like, I don't know all the details on scientific studies and what is figured out about how the ecosystem works with animals and what needs to be in place. But there's various different ideas, like if the certain bees were gone, then everything would be done for. If certain ants were gone, then everything would be done for. So, like, a lot of things work together to make things work. But let's say there are certain animals where if they went extinct, it wouldn't affect things too much. Like, so let's say you take something like a lion. Lions are they have to hunt zebras and gazelles. They have to cause this harm because it's part of their nature. But let's say that we discover that if all lions were extinct, that it wouldn't affect the ecosystem. It probably would, but let's just say it wouldn't. I don't really know. In a perfect vegan utopia, would it be ideal for us to make the lions become extinct if it wasn't going to affect the ecosystem? Because of it, there wouldn't be the
Okay, I
harm
get
that's
it.
caused, if that makes
It's
sense.
not about the ecosystem. It's about the beings within it, the allowance. The ecosystem allows for these beings to exist. So the
Hmm.
basis is for If something wants to live, allow it to live, make it possible for it to live, give allowances, without it negatively impacting you. Because if it negatively impacts you, then doing that comes at a cost and a sacrifice to yourself, and there's a conflict there, and then there's no coexistence. So
Well, what
one
if it
is going to
negatively
strive over the other.
what if it negatively impacts another being that can suffer, like zebras and gazelles?
Um, well, the thing is with because we haven't gotten to the point where us as humans have got it right in terms of coexistence, then how can we get it right for animals? So we have to start with ourselves first and get it right first. And
Yeah,
that's, yeah,
and well,
what
and
I
that's
believe with hold on. That's why I believe with egoistic altruism. So egoistic altruism means that you focus on trying to build yourself up in a way that can benefit others. So if there's a problem in your life, then if you work on the solution, then more than likely that solution, that problem is other people's problems, and your solution will be the solution to others too. And
mm,
then once you get that, say we do that at the human level, then we move on to optimistic altruism, where we are helping others make the world or environment a better place to live in. So once we
yeah.
fix ourselves first, then we can move to others. Okay.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of what I meant by depending on how extreme we were going with the utopia. Are we separating ourselves from them and letting them do their own thing? As far, and by them, I guess I just mean all of nature. Because, for example, I don't, yeah, you're in California, so you probably have this too. But
Hmm.
at least in Oregon, deer go from like one side of the road to another, going from like a foresty area to a meadow or something, and a car might hit them. Now
Hmm.
a deer doesn't have the intelligence to understand why this car exists, and they're not deciding to take this risk. So I think it's us humans, it is on us to make it to where they can't cross into our dangerous areas, and we don't take over their land so they can live a great natural life doing their own thing. So I guess that's kind of just what I meant. So something like the deer thing I just said, or like the lion and the zebra thing, is do we try to make their lives better? Would it be beneficial for us to be roaming through the jungle and the forest, and if we find an animal that naturally got hurt by another animal, do we as humans that want suffering to not happen, do we take that animal to let it heal, or do we let it naturally die like it would? Do we kind of separate ourselves from other animals?
Mm. So I boil it down to respect. So if something doesn't know better or it's going to be disrespectful to the other being, don't do it, you know? So
Mhm.
if a deer isn't going to know that you're going to ram your car in it, but you're aware of it, you can do something about it. And what you were saying is personal responsibility. So being
Mhm.
a good citizen, steward to the environment, um, through uh, the idea of having the desire to have respect, or the need to have respect for the animal, um, we consciously can take it upon ourselves a burden to allow for um, us to make a change on the behalf of the animal to make sure that they are able to survive. And this is where I was saying about conflict. Like you have to think about when something comes to you, you have to think about how to place it in a place where it won't bother you and be a benefit to it, rather than um, not thinking about the problem and just killing whatever comes your way, and putting the responsibility on them, suffering on them for your own laziness and ineptitude of not handling the situation yourself. Because in the end, if you're conscious about it and it's coming on you, then it's something that you need to deal with as personal responsibility. And if you're putting it on others by making them suffer instead, of you suffering, then you're kind of relinquishing it. And that's what people want to do because of our disposable culture, and fast-paced living. People don't want to deal with consequences anymore, so they don't take on burdens. And then because of that, they create kind of a dead world around them where they just kill off everything just so that they don't have to deal with anything. It's like that's not how it works. Like we need to, if something comes our way, we need to. It's our problem. So if it's our problem, we got to do something to solve our own problem. We can't just close our eyes and pretend it's not there. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
killing off everything around us is like running over the deer is like pretending nothing's there, like nothing
Yeah.
happened, nothing's wrong. Who cares? I'm just gonna
Oh,
do things
yeah.
my way.
Yeah, no, I guess I more so meant not running over the deer, but like having them be separate from us instead of living amongst us, if that makes sense. At least in the regard of how a car works. We
I guess a better example is like our food system. So, do we put our food in nature and take our food out? Like putting a wheat field and allowing wild animals to go through it at the and risking killing them in the process through harvesters. Um,
Mhm.
or for me, I feel like it's better to separate the our food from the environment because it's unnatural. So anything unnatural, you separate it from nature so that you allow nature to continue on its own, while
Mm.
you continue what you're doing on your own if it's for yourself rather than um, for um, yeah, if it's for yourself. So
Well, the complicated thing is, if we want to make our food naturally, so if we don't want something grown just inside of a building or something, then, we want it to be in good soil outside, give it good fertilizer. I mean, various different things. And we want it to be in the sun versus just being grown in a building, because it'll get more nutrients. So I don't know. It'd be ideal to
yeah, it's
create
like if we're
ways.
doing something that doesn't pertain to something, then we got to separate it out. So if we're growing food in an unnatural way, like planting in plants that are not native to that area, then it's good
Oh,
to separate it out before we damage the integrity of that system. Because to me, a utopia is about preservation of and keeping things intact what is working. You know what I'm saying? And making it
yeah.
better if possible. So what I believe like with the food system is you can rewild natural areas and increase nature that way. And then if you're able to coexist with nature, like I believe that animal parts, we don't have a symbiotic relationship with animal uh, like products versus plant products because if you take a leg from an animal, then they no longer have that leg to walk on. But if
Hmm.
you eat the fruit of a plant, like maybe you drop the core somewhere and it helps propagate the plant. So that's a symbiotic relationship. So if you're
Yeah.
helping nature along and being a part of nature and tending to the theme of something, then it's okay to participate in it. But if it's no longer a part of what it is, um, it's losing like the essence of what it's about, like nature being natural and wild.
Hmm.
Then that's when you start separating it out. But to keep it
Yeah.
from there, because once you start putting it in, then you're disrupting it, and it is no longer there anymore, like
Yeah.
deforesting.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. So I guess part of it would come down to two things. Should we value human life anyway differently or more than other animals? And then the other question is, um, oh, I just lost my other question. But but basically, the idea of how everything naturally happens, like you were talking about, you eat an apple, you drop the apple, an apple tree grows from that seed. I think we have discovered that with how many humans we have, which that might be the issue too, with how many humans we have, the only way to do anything close to trying to feed all of them is something to do with the unnatural idea of like planting in a field where we are as efficient as possible with the land, which might be over efficient in a sense because it's not like just dropping an apple or like animal feces that has seeds in it that makes the next thing grow in that area. But
Mhm.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, considering I think we need to have fields and to grow food in abundance. So
But that's
maybe
for people, so
for people, yeah.
like if you do say indoor farming, you could do vertical farming, and then once you start
Mm,
doing things in an isolated setting, then you could maximize it that way, maximize how unnatural it can get. Like maybe you go from hydroponics to aeroponics to save water, then you go to bioreactors to save on land, so
gotcha.
you could continue that way in an isolated manner. But if you're mixing things, then nature doesn't benefit, you don't benefit, and no one gets anywhere. So it doesn't work, is what I,
Gotcha.
yeah.
No, that's fair. That makes sense. Okay, well, let me bring another question to you. I rambled on earlier and I said like a bunch of things, and so one
Yeah.
one of the things got a little lost in the weeds, but I would be curious to hear your thoughts on this. Um, and this would be after we figured out our own stuff, because there's the element of figuring out ourselves and then what we do after that. So let's say the world's perfect. We have the vegan utopia of at least what we can do for ourselves. Now the question is, do you think that so you know how I don't know if you've ever seen like a documentary where they'll talk about like an animal that was found that was injured, that this group
Oh
like
yeah, that they are
brought.
not supposed to, because they're not supposed to meddle with nature because of
Yeah,
their.
well, and like they'll save its life and it'll be on like a sanctuary of sorts, and so anyway, they can't put it back in nature because it would die, because it doesn't have its own like group that it's part of, and
Yeah. Do you
even
think
other.
that's justified, is what you're asking?
Well, mostly what I'm wondering
Oh.
is if you think in a perfect world that we should go around, and if we find hurt animals that are hurt out in nature, like let's say an animal jumped from a log to another log or something, and it fell and hurt its leg. Now in nature, any of these animals will get picked off by prey or they'll just die off. Should we intervene and help them, or should we leave anything not human up to nature?
Well, the reason why people help out these animals and rescue them is because we've destroyed the environment so much and turned it into an unnatural place that it requires unnatural methods to get it back to normal. Because it's all about balance. So if something's imbalanced, like say your health is it not it where it should be, like say you have really low sugar, you need a lot of sugar to put yourself back to normal. But for a regular person, that shot of sugar would be way too much and that would be unhealthy for them. So
Hmm.
obviously we need to do these unnatural, unhealthy methods that are not meant for that system, just to get it back to where it's supposed to be. But say we have an operating system, we wouldn't have the need for that. So
Hmm.
it would be, if we rewild everything, we could make up for our losses so much that if an animal gets injured and eaten, it wouldn't matter, because the amount of animals we've saved and recovered compared to that one, uh,
Hmm.
it's not going to be outweighed, and also it'll be as intended because it's going to increase the population of that other animal that's eating off of it. It's doing it as nature intended. But also the thing is, humans, they have reactions where if they see an injured animal, they want to help it out. So if we're in nature and we're acting on our natural um, instincts, if we're helping an animal in our natural mode, because we're in nature acting naturally, then
Mhm.
we're acting as our, and we are supposed to as well in
Mhm.
it. So we could help animals and stuff, because the bringing back nature, like rewilding it, would bring back our natural tendencies too, and then we would be participating in the system as well and bring it out. Because the thing is, um, we've isolated ourselves so much from nature that we just don't have any sympathy for it anymore. We just don't care. That's why
Mm.
we kill animals and eat them and not have anything, any feeling towards it, because we've isolated that. We pick it up at the grocery store instead of hunting it ourselves. So
Yeah.
it would
No, that's
actually bring that back, you know?
yeah, no, those are great points, and I think that was a great
Yeah.
answer. So that brings me to my next question then, which I guess I'm working everything in reverse. So let's say we're in this perfect vegan utopia. We've figured out almost everything we can do ourselves to mitigate these issues, and now the question is, should humans own animals? Should well, I'll just go with that and let's see what you say to that.
No, I don't. I don't believe in ownership. I mean, I guess unless the animal puts it on themselves to want to be
Mhm.
owned, you know, like hopping, like those fish that hop on the under the ray or the shark or anything.
Mhm.
Um, but like you're saying, like conscious, right?
Well, what
Um,
I mean is like, so in my mind, the most ideal thing we could do is take every human, like every domesticated animal, and we should spay and neuter them, put them on the biggest, greatest sanctuary possible, and then let them have great lives and die off. And then those human created species would just be gone and not living amongst us. Because I don't think we should own them. I don't think we should be putting them in areas aside from creating natural areas like where Mustang horses will just roam free on like reservations of, creating natural wild areas. Aside from that.
I think it goes back. There was something that I happened to be overlooked on my side too, where I think you were asking if it's I forgot, but
Mhm.
um, it was something about like putting humans first or something like that.
Yeah.
The thing is, um, since it's about anti-violence, I don't believe in a justification for conflicts to end in violence where we are putting ourselves above an animal. I believe in utopia, everyone would have equal rights, and in terms of, and not equal rights, equal capability to be able to live. So
Mhm.
if so there is no me above them that I need to put myself above them. It's like seeing how they could go, so, and seeing how I can go, so that
Mhm.
things work together.
But how would
Cohesively.
that work with pets? So yeah.
The thing, so if you're talking about that situation, like how to handle all the uh, hybrid, like domesticated species,
Yeah.
to me, the way to handle it will be to rewild them back. So that's why I'm not quite
Mm.
against having livestock, because they carry genes, and they're living, so they could be the reservoir to birth
Mhm.
these well, extinct species and everything. So
Mhm.
I would say if we can rewild them back, we wouldn't be. I mean, we have to realize that most 99.9, they say, percent of species are already gone, but
Mhm.
they're not gone. Like they didn't go extinct where they don't exist anymore. They just exist in another form, like they say
Mhm.
chickens, were the ancestors of dinosaurs. So the
Mhm.
past ancestors, they transitioned, so the species itself is different than now. Like um, Homo habilis is
Mhm.
different than Homo sapiens, but
Yeah.
it's not that they went extinct, they just transitioned to a new species, so they're not gone from the planet.
For sure.
So we
So
would
a
morph
quick
them back to
I
their.
don't know if you can though. Like I don't think you can make Homo sapiens slash Homo sapiens Neanderthals ever become Homo habilis or Homo erectus. I don't think you can morph back.
But we could try, because I believe like a utopia would be to bring Earth back to the place that it was at before humans
Gotcha.
like
Well,
tarnished it, you know,
yeah.
and have it continue to live out. So we would kind of put everything back in its place where it belongs.
Okay. Well, so
Yeah.
the reason that my go-to is that we would spay and neuter them and put them on a sanctuary is because my understanding was all domesticated animals, there's nowhere in nature that they could really survive and thrive in any way. Now, if they could survive and thrive, that'd be great. And an example of that might be taking a natural area and then not spaying and neutering them and putting every domesticated animal in that area, making it so they can't get back to us. Because cats and dogs, if they could get to us, they could get in roads and die. So if they go out there and
Well,
then
they'll be
they
possessed by
naturally,
people too. Yeah.
what's that?
They'd be possessed by people, like as in pets and everything.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if we make it where nobody can own an animal, you cannot have a pet, and then we put them all, put all the fish back in the rivers or oceans, and then every other pet, doesn't matter if it's guinea pigs, rats, cats, dogs, whatever, we put them all in an area. We don't spay and neuter them. They can keep breeding if they're the ones that are capable of. I know a lot of factory farmed like cows and stuff are unable to breed any further
Yeah.
because of how they're
They
raised. But anyways,
yeah.
so maybe naturally something would come up in the wild and some of those would survive. But would
So
you be in
I think
favor of that?
there's the thing about domesticated animals is that they were wild at one time. We just bred some domesticated features into them, but they're wild.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when people had that's why they had the dog whisperer with Caesar Milan. I think that's what the name of the show was with National Geographic, where he would show there'd be dogs that and there would be pets that were really aggressive, and they try to get them to work as a pet,
Mm-hmm.
because the thing is, in the end, animals, even plants too, are wild with domesticated features. So once you
Mm-hmm.
take those domesticated features out of them, they will go wild. um, and it happens very quickly, because the thing is, there's a lot of these animals, when they're released into the wild, they start becoming feral.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hogs, pigs, they'll turn into like hogs, and cats, they start taking on their predatory
Uh,
skills
interesting.
again. Yeah, so
I'm guessing you
it's
couldn't.
not that hard. It's already there. You just
Yeah,
have to make
yeah.
it possible.
I'm guessing a lot of the things would die off, like pugs and chihuahuas and stuff like that. I don't think that they would breed and figure out a way to keep thriving and surviving. But I think you're probably right that a lot of them will get different instincts back and act in a wild, natural way.
Yeah,
I
and then there's
Yeah.
also the other side, where there's animals already in the wild that if we rewild more and reforest, then
Mhm.
those will become bigger, and species that are about to be extinct, like threatened, they could come back too. So
Yeah.
it'd be on both sides.
Yeah. Okay. And so you are in favor of that essentially. Just take humans don't own animals anymore. All animals are out in the wild, and the only time that we come in like direct contact with them would be if we go to the wild and like a deer comes up and lets us pet it, that's fine. Same thing with a wild dog if we want to take that risk. And then the rare case that we find an injured animal, our vets can nurse that animal back to health and either go back to the wild or be on a sanctuary. Is that
Yeah, because that's our
okay?
capability. The thing is, life is about like how much burden you could take upon yourself
Mm-hmm.
to support and be a safety net for others to be able to continue. So,
Yeah.
um, it's like the more that we're able to take on like others burdens, the further we could succeed and um advance and
Yeah.
progress. Yeah, so it's about taking on, and but it starts with our personal responsibility. Like, we need to be able to take on as much personal responsibility as possible, and then if we can't, then we can rely on the support safety net in case we're not able to, for others to step in to help out as needed.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no, I definitely agree. So I have one more thought on this utopia, and then if you have other thoughts, you should tell me as well. But what are your how do you feel about laws being created on the basis of nature and animal protection to limit how many humans can be made? Like, if we take up enough land that we are making it so animals aren't able to be in their habitat, should we say, okay, from this point on, you can only have one child, or every couple can only have
Yeah.
two children, no more?
So I just recently put on my website that on the vegan page that
Mm-hmm.
there's no bad people, there's or no bad beings, there's just bad behavior. So it's not about, like, people think the issue with the environment's overpopulation. It's not overpopulation, it's overconsumption,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically overconsumption of valuable, scarce, precious resources, not overconsumption of, say, something unneeded like trash, and doing,
Mm-hmm.
over consuming at a personal level. Like, I'm taking in too much trash before my, turning it into some artwork, behavior, individual level. And like for stuff that maybe it doesn't is it already bad for the environment. I'm saying, like, the good stuff, the
Mm-hmm.
overconsumption of that's where the environment can't handle it, and
Yeah.
where it passes its carrying capacity. But the thing is, we could increase the carrying capacity if we change our behaviors. So the
Mm-hmm.
number of people does not matter, because
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
so you're fine. Let's just say hypothetically, let's say that we figure out how to fix that behavior, and then we start populating at a wild number. We just keep getting more and more people. We figure out the best way to achieve all these issues that we cause, but now, because of so many people and us needing more land, I guess the question is, do we view the human right to procreate as like a fundamental right that we should not have our government stop us from, or should our government keep in mind nature and wild animals when it comes to the idea of preventing people from procreating further?
um I don't really believe that procreating is a right. It's usually
Mm-hmm.
a desire or need. Like, maybe the government needs a society to run. They don't have enough people to that are working, so they need more people, or
Well,
maybe
I just
someone
meant a
wants to
right.
have more kids. It's
Mhm.
usually want based rather than rights based, because you don't need to have kids to live. And
Mhm.
people who do, they're being dependent on others to survive. And I believe in independence. So it's
Mhm.
like taking care of yourself instead of putting burdens onto others, you know, which is what
Yeah.
usually happens with animals. We put our needs to eat on others, or taste buds, or on the animals. So
Yeah.
it's about what were we saying? What were you asking?
Well, it was just the idea of, should it be legal or like is it acceptable for a government to tell people there's a limit of how many kids you can have? And real
Oh
quick
yeah.
before answering
So
that, well, I just want
so you were
to
saying, like, there's these like plateaus where we reach that maximum carrying capacity. The thing is, one say we reach it and it's becoming a problem, then we work towards the next solution towards uh, getting the new carrying capacity. So it's always
yeah.
turn and pivoting, and that's how
Yeah.
you create success, is either not having a problem or being able to fix it.
Yeah. Well, I
Right.
guess I just wonder if in your mind the carrying capacity goes that direction. So in my mind, I do think that we, as far as what I want our governments to give us as far as rights and protections, I would factor in that idea of two consenting adults deciding that they want to make children. Um, I view that as a thing that I can't picture wanting a government to prevent. Now, I obviously there could be a hypothetical future where
Well,
I
there
would say,
has been times when they wanted to, like the one child
Mhm.
policy.
Yeah. I don't think like in my mind that's not a good route to go unless I heard the right hypothetical for um the situation that would be happening. So the way, because I think I view humans and animals slightly differently than you. I think me and you agree more than anybody I've ever talked to, but
Mhm.
I do view humans as more important in a sense than animals. And so the rights that I view that humans should have, in this sense, I would say that if animals get harmed in the process, that's not a point that I want to prevent that harm.
Say that last part again. If
Um, uh,
the
w- uh,
animals
well, I'll
not.
give a comparison. So like if you just take a random animal like a zebra, like zebras care about staying alive themselves and procreating, and they care about their children. I'm guessing, or at least I'm guessing most mammals care about their group, their tribe of like their family, and they wouldn't stop doing what they're doing to prevent if they were killing some smaller animal that they happen to be trampling on for their offspring. So since I view humans different than other animals, I do think that when it comes to the idea of if making 3 children versus 2 children takes up land that you're taking away from other animals, that is an element of nature of an animal wanting to procreate and survive that I would say um, is acceptable, even if other animals are suffering.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If it's a problem, you change the behavior so it doesn't become a problem. Because the last thing you like for me, a utopia, the last thing it's going to have is a focus on stuff that's irrelevant. Like if you have a certain way and direction, um, where you can set things up in a certain way where certain things are not a problem, so you don't have to
Mhm.
worry about them. So
Well, that's
why
why
worry about it?
I'm kind of throwing in a
Like,
hypothetical
don't make
problem.
it a problem. So
Yeah.
there isn't one. That's what I'm saying. So like it goes back to like the trolley problem I was talking about before, where
Mhm.
my teacher said you have to choose one person versus five, and
Mhm.
me, I'm trying to say let me stop it before I get to that point where I have to say one or five. Let's not make
Mhm.
it an issue so it won't become one. Some people say there were others, they would just say I'm walking away, I'm just letting the train do what it wants,
Mhm.
I'm not a part of it. But for me,
Yeah.
and my no one would let me say it, but I
Yeah.
believe I was believing it's about doing the best to try to stop a problem from happening before it
Mhm.
becomes one. So like
Yeah. Well, and
doing my best to stop the train, you
right.
know.
And that's
Yeah.
good. We should all do our best to do good things. But I think the counter, if I was your teacher in that class presenting you with that problem and you said that, I guess my response would be, well, in this hypothetical, there is nothing more powerful than this trolley. So anything you could do to try to stop it, you could drop a big boulder in front of it. Nothing is going to stop it. It'll plow it out of the way. You still only have these options. And you don't have to answer it. Hypotheticals sometimes are wild and pointless, especially if there's no relevance at all. But I like with the trolley thing, for example, just so you can have my thoughts on it, I would, as of now, unless I'm convinced otherwise, I would likely in almost all cases do what you said others said, which is not get involved. I would rather the 5 die because that was set in motion than me choosing to save 5 and let a different one die where I put that in motion myself.
Right. So for me, so a lot of people take on the idea of defeatism through the about determinism. I actually was
Mhm.
just writing a lot about. Um, hold on, my computer is about to run out of battery power.
Oh, well, I was going to say this is about a good time to wrap it up anyways. I
Yeah.
felt really good about this. So let's end it here. But yeah, let's talk again soon, okay?
Are you sure? Like we
Mhm.
could continue. It's only 1 o'clock. My I thought you were going to want to go to like 1:30.
Yeah, I just think on this topic, this is probably a good point to stop at.
Okay. Do you want me to get my? I bet they're not, using their lawn. I could reconnect my computer and we could continue till 1:30. Or
Okay. Yeah, we'll
yeah,
start again in a sec. Okay. All right. Bye.
yeah. So. Mhm.